Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, game week.
Y'all ready? It's game week, so let's get this rolling.
Yeah, game week, North Texas. It seems like it was forever ago that we started, but got here pretty quick and excited for an unbelievable Saturday night. But we got a lot of good work to do here in the next couple of days to get ready for that one. So, yeah, with that, I'll open up with any questions that you might have.
You got the two deep here, and is it pretty well solid, or could something change between now and Saturday?
I would imagine that it's pretty solid right now. Yeah, I mean, unless there's an injury or something that happens from now until game time, I think we're going to pretty much roll with that crew, and we'll see how it all pans out on Saturday night.
Running back, you got three of them on the depth chart. Will we see running back by committee?
I think so. Yeah, I think they've all warranted playing time, and Damian Moore is probably going to be him or Major probably going to be the guys that get the first snaps, and then the rest of them are all going to play and all going to have an opportunity. Probably going to see four at least. So we'll see how that goes throughout the course of the game, and we'll have some two-back packages out there too, so you'll have a chance to see some guys.
In baseball, you have the quote clubhouse guy. Who would be on your football team the guy in the locker room that gets it going for your team?
Oh, I mean, Kendrick Malone would be the guy that, he's kind of a jack of all trades. He does a little bit of everything, plays special teams, played receiver. He has played quarterback. He kind of does it all for us. So emotionally, he's a great leader for our team too. Kind of does everything right kind of guy. But yeah, he would be the guy that I would say, yeah, clubhouse guy. Everybody's going to look to Kendrick to see how he's responding.
UNT, I believe they named their starting quarterback this past week. Does that change anything for you guys? And what do you see from Drew and his abilities? What does he present challenge-wise for your defense?
Well, he's more of a he's more of a runner, I think, than than he is a pure passer. But he can throw it too, which surprising the guy hasn't played quarterbacks. And first time he played quarterback was in that bowl game. Since I think it was 8th grade or something like that. So it's hard to believe because he does have a good throwing motion, and he's a heck of an athlete. Talked to some of the Texas State guys, and they weren't ready for it. We didn't have an expectation that he was going to be the guy for them. But I think now we know what it's going to be. So I think having quarterback run in our mindset on the defensive side of the ball certainly helps with the way we call defense and those types of things. So I think it's gonna give us at least I wouldn't say an advantage, but at least we know who we're preparing for. The guy that transferred from Miami, Albany guy, Old Dominion guy. We did some research on him as well and watched some of his games from back in Albany, and I think we got a pretty good idea on what those two guys both can bring to the table.
Off season, looking at your offensive line on the starting line, 304, 326, 306, 317. I haven't really seen that here in a long time, or even since they put the program together. Just talk about the development of your line.
Yeah, and I think all of them are pretty athletic, and they all can, they can play at a pretty high level if they're playing together. And I think that's what Eli brings to the table for us is kind of the glue of that group. He keeps it all together. He keeps them all on the same page. He's got a great disposition. He doesn't get too high, too low. He's pretty steady Eddie for us, and it's the biggest we've been in a while. But more importantly, they're good players. They're not just big guys, and I think we've developed some depth in Cade Verdon and Andre Sauls and Alex Harrelson and Zach Curtis. Those guys are all they're all guys that can play right now, and they're ready. So. I think we've had more depth on that position than we've had in a while.
Robert Coleman, back of course as your starter. Talk about the development of your backup, Aiden McCown. Of course he's got the bloodline, the family name. How's he progressed? And it's now going into his 3rd year here.
Good. I think everybody puts him in the McCown box, but he's really not that type of quarterback. He's more of an athletic quarterback. He regularly hits 20 miles per hour on a catapult, and he can really run, and he makes really good decisions in the run game. And I think that's really what's been setting him apart now is that he's kind of embraced that fact that he is an athletic quarterback and guy that can move and run. And we can do some stuff with him, and there's going to be some opportunities to even get him on the field on Saturday, where we can use his athleticism to our advantage, and he's embraced that, and I think that's what's kind of made his development a little bit quicker than maybe it was. We were trying to put him in that McCown box, that guy that's a drop back guy that's gonna sit in the pocket and deliver the ball over the field, and he can do that at times, but I don't think that's really using the strengths of his athleticism.
Any of the new players who maybe impressed you the most, the new guys coming in?
I mean, Paul Amodia, Huff, DeMarcus Rankin, Kevin Thomas, those guys on defense, man, they're really playing at a pretty high level. Jaden Marinan, those guys are all playing really high level right now, football, and I think they're playing really well together, and I think, it'll be fun to watch those guys hopefully, play well on Saturday. There's going to be some bumps, in the road because there's a bunch of guys that haven't played together yet. So, defensively, they're going to play really fast on offense, and we're going to have to get lined up fast, and communication is going to be at an all-time high. And so we'll see it right away, from the frying pan into the fire for those guys. But been really impressed with those guys. Blake Thomas at the wide receiver position has been really good. Jaden Gerard, another guy that's kind of got everyone feeling pretty good about the wide receiver position right now. LaDamian McDowell is just an electric football player, and as a freshman running back, you just don't see that very often. A guy that can pick up the offense and be able to pass protect and do all those things that are necessary to keep him on the field. So he's going to be a guy, I think, that shows up out there a lot.
What about just the schedule for this week and travel plans and things like that? Can you take us through that a little bit?
I mean, we practice every morning, so we're a morning practice team. So we'll practice Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning, and then hopefully we'll be pretty light on Thursday. Friday is more of a walkthrough, but we'll be here in the morning, and then by 11:30 we'll be done and getting ready to get on the bus and head up to Denton and stay the night up there. And it's a night game, so you got a fair amount of time the next day to get some walkthroughs in and just some last minute, maybe substitution, special teams type stuff. We do that on Saturday as well. So we'll have an opportunity to do a lot of that stuff where we get guys mentally ready. We call it a mental sweat, not a physical sweat. So that's what Friday and Saturday is really all about. A lot of teams nowadays are doing this slow Thursday, where they walk through Thursday and they practice fast on Friday. And I've been a couple places where they've done it, and it's just not who I am. That's not the way I'm kind of wired. So, and I think our players, we do take care of them on Thursday, but we're not slow. We're going to move around pretty good. And then Friday we'll slow it down.
I know you're concerned about your schedule and all that, but it says a lot for the conference. You saw what happened out in Thibodeau on Saturday, and where unranked Nichols pretty well handles number 4 team in the country in UIW.
It's a plus and it's a minus. It's just what the Southland does to each other each and every year. And we cannibalize ourselves, and we're sitting at the end with a bunch of 2 and 3 lost teams, and unfortunately we get passed over because these other top heavy conferences are really just dominating the rest of the conference and going and walking into the playoffs with 3 and 4 teams. So I knew Nichols would play well. They just, I knew Coach Ryback, who's a defensive guy, and he put together a hell of a defensive game plan, and they executed it. That's always the key, right? You got to go out and execute. The game plan can be great, but the players got to go execute it, and they did. And I think with a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator, new O-line coach, UIW, I'm sure they'll make a lot of improvements from week 1 to week 2. So, but it was fun to watch football, and there's a bunch of good games on, and I guess it's, as a head coach, you say, oh well, yeah, that's exactly what game 1's going to look like if you watched a lot of them.
Did you have a chance to watch any of the football this weekend?
Oh yeah. We actually practiced in the morning on Saturday. We had a little senior barbecue in the afternoon, and then after that, we cut everybody loose, coaches and players, and everybody kind of got the evening off to relax. Players had yesterday off, so they came in today pretty fresh and ready to go.
Anything else from UNT stand out to you when you're watching the film?
Well, I think a lot of the unknown is going to stand out on defense because you got a new defensive coordinator. Really only 3 guys on the defense that are returning starters that have played a lot of football, so it's kind of hard to gauge what they're going to be on defense. We've watched, most of the stuff from Sam Houston, but that's not a lot of carryover either just because of players. And, you try to get a structure together, but I'm sure that'll be different based on the players. So that's the hardest part about going into game one is not under – and they have the same thing with Coach McCarthy on offense. I mean, they're going to – Coach McCarthy hasn't called a game since 2019, so I don't know that they can go back and find where he's called plays and what that game's going to look like. So, I mean, a lot of it's my philosophy, but he's calling the game, so he sets things up, and the way things are going to be called is going to be a little bit different.
How has that relationship gone so far? I know you two go pretty far back. How has he kind of acclimated to Beaumont and running the offense and everything that's involved in that?
Good. I mean, he's a ball guy. He loves ball, and his opportunity to be here and really be working, as the guy who runs the offense and puts together the schemes. He's back in his comfort zone, and I think that's exactly where he wants to be, is with the quarterbacks, developing those guys, and working with the offensive side of the ball, and that's what he's doing, and he's good at it. He's been doing it a long time. He's been really successful in the places he's been, and I'm always there to help in any way I can, but really he understands what needs to be done and gets it done. And we have a great staff on offense in general with Coach Sperano as our tight ends coach. He also works a lot with the run game and our tempo stuff, and Coach Kanata is our O-line coach and does an amazing job with them. Him and I have a history together, and Jacob Diaz, our wide receiver coach, Todd Macon, who's he's our pass game coordinator, also works with the running back. So those guys all do a great job of working together, feeding off each other, and not afraid to get into a little bit too for the good of the order. And I always think it's always good to have those kinds of discussions, as long as they know when we walk out on the same page, and they've been great at that. And I feel like we're in a good spot because of that.
Coordinators, different personalities on how they operate. Now, where your coordinators be on the sideline in the booth, some coordinators like being down the field, others like being above looking at things. So.
Yeah, our guys will be on the sideline. At least no, all of them will be on the sideline. So offense, defense, and special teams, and that's just where they want it to be. And I think that's fine with me. We got good eyes in the sky, and Coach Cordova, who's been with us forever, and Coach Sperano, those 2 guys on either side of the ball will be up there. So I think we'll be really in good shape.
Throughout the offseason, you had to get some new players and coaches assimilated. Talk about how you guys basically are trying to get on the same page in preparation for Texas.
Well, I think that summer access in the NCAA is really gotten much better from a standpoint where you can actually coach your players. In the past, you didn't have any real access to the players during the summer, and now, we can run OTAs, we can kind of run offense, defense, special teams, get an opportunity to watch guys, go through drills and things of that nature, and they can't line up 11 on 11 and stuff like that, but, you get up basically all the other stuff that you need done in the summer, so you can get players acclimated a little bit easier now than you could in the past. But I think that, and just getting a chance to know the guys and the guys to get to know each other, that was really what we spent a lot of the summer on, was connections and making sure guys knew each other and could talk a little bit about each other. And I always think it creates a better bond when you do that. And so I think we're further ahead than we normally would be at this time. But still got to go out and play the game. You haven't. They always say you got to get out there in the fire before you figure out, what the heck your team is made of. So we're going to do that on Saturday. Anybody else? All right, thanks, guys, appreciate it. And girls.